Good morning. Is everybody super excited to be here? I can hear the chatter. The April 14th Board of Directors meeting is now called to order. First, I would like to ask Ruth to explain how to access interpretation. Ruth?
Thank you. This announcement is for on-site participants, and I will repeat the message in English. Si se ha unido a la reunión de hoy en la sala de juntas de SANDAG y necesita interpretación al español, por favor, diríjase a la recepción del piso 8 y solicite un receptor. Simplemente sostenga el auricular junto a su oído y la interpretación comenzará automáticamente. If you're joining us today in the SANDAG boardroom and need interpretation into Spanish, please check out a receiver from the receptionist on the 8th floor. Simply hold the earpiece to your ear and the interpreter will come on automatically. And the following announcement is for remote participants. Para hacer uso del servicio de interpretación, por favor, desplácese a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom, donde aparecen los controles. Haga clic en el icono de interpretación, que es el globo terráqueo, y seleccione Spanish, español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom en celular o tableta, presione los puntos suspensivos, luego Interpretation y luego el idioma. To use the interpreting feature, please scroll to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are located and click on the interpretation icon, the world. Then select your language. If you are joining using the Zoom mobile app on a cell phone or tablet, please press the ellipses, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and start this meeting with tribal acknowledgement. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the land that we call home. The tribal, oh, you know what I did? I didn't do roll call. There you go. Let me do roll call first.
Thank you, Chairwoman. City of Carlsbad, Councilmember Burkholder.
Burkholder, present.
City of Chula Vista, Councilmember Cardenas.
Cardenas, present.
City of Coronado, Councilmember Duncan.
Present, thank you.
County of San Diego, Chair Vargas.
Vargas present.
Supervisor Anderson is absent. City of Del Mar, Councilmember Gasterlin.
Gasterland for Del Mar, present.
City of El Cajon, Deputy Mayor Goebel.
Gopal present.
City of Encinitas, Mayor Kranz.
Here.
City of Escondido, Mayor White.
Present.
City of Imperial Beach, Councilmember Fisher.
Fisher here.
City of La Mesa, Councilmember Shu.
Here.
City of Lemon Grove is absent. City of National City, Vice Mayor Molina.
Present.
City of Oceanside, Deputy Mayor Keim. City of Poway, Mayor Vaz. City of San Diego, Councilmember Campillo. City of San Diego, Vice Chair Elo Rivera.
Present.
City of San Marcos, Mayor Jones. City of Santee, Councilmember Hall.
Here.
City of Solana Beach, Second Vice Chair Hebner.
Present.
City of Vista, Councilmember Melendez.
Here.
Caltrans, Director Gallardo.
Here.
MTS and North County Transit District are both absent. Imperial County Supervisor Escobar.
Good morning, present.
U.S. Department of Defense Director Keck. Port of San Diego Director Stuyvesant.
Here.
And the San Diego County Water Authority, San Diego County Regional Airport Authority, Mexico, and the Tribal Chairmen's Association are absent. That concludes the roll call and confirms quorum.
Thank you. Now I will go ahead and start with the meeting with a tribal acknowledgement. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the land that we call home. The tribal nations of the San Diego region have historically faced injustices. We acknowledge the harmony that existed between the land, nature, and its original peoples, who have since endured displacement, persecution, and systemic oppression. We pay our respects to the unceded territory and homelands of the 18 tribal nations of our region, the most in any county in the United States, from our cultural groups, the Kumeyaay, de Guiño, de Luiseño, de Cupeño, and de Cahuilla. This land has nourished, healed, protected, and embraced them for many generations in a relationship of balance and harmony. And as members of the SANDAG community, we acknowledge this legacy. We aspire to learn from Indigenous traditional knowledge and experience in undoing the injustices of the past. With that, I'm going to ask that you join me. Will you stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. All right, let's begin our meeting with non-agenda public comments. We have a couple of items that are time certain today, and so particularly in closed session. So I'm going to go ahead and ask that we keep our public comments to 1 minute, please. Thank you. Oh, go ahead, Tessa.
Thank you. We have 4 virtual public commenters. The first will be Alan C. I don't have. Go ahead, Alan.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Am I unmuted now? Checking.
Yes, you are. Please go
Okay,
ahead.
thank you so much. Yeah, big meeting yesterday, enforce homeless off the streets into shelters. Yet at the same time, they're shutting down Golden Plaza, 550 beds, agreed to selling it off. Every city, please learn this, that City of Coronado actually has done this to encourage the homeless to stop doing drugs, get off the street and go into shelters. Yet our own San Diego City is selling off Golden Hall. Complete lunacy. Enforce existing laws. Cannot block sidewalks, ADA access, drug use or drunk in public, littering, public urination, theft of shopping carts, which costs all the consumers. Bear in mind that if you want to really help the homeless, you've got to be tough and start enforcing existing laws. I yield back. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Catherine Rhodes. Catherine, please go ahead. You'll be followed by Blair Beekman.
Hello, this is Catherine Rhodes. Sad news. Yesterday, the City of San Diego City Council's Land Use and Housing criminalized the poor and homeless. They're creating a new law so that they could put people in jail. And it was led by Todd Gloria and Stephen Whitburn. And what they're going to do is they're going to move the homeless into all your other cities there. And so what I would like the other elected officials and the county supervisors and 17 mayor and council people to investigate if the city's action is going to move the homeless into your neighborhoods. And then another thing is that they're going to move because the coastal zone, you can't have an ordinance until it's approved by the Coastal Commission. They're going to actually move the homeless in downtown and Hillcrest over to Point Loma, Otay Mesa, Nestor, PB, Ocean Beach, Carmel Valley, Torrey Pines, La Jolla, PB, Mission Beach. And, you know, that's just sad. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Blair Beekman, followed by the phone number ending in 731. Blair, please go ahead.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. I hope we can all understand the concepts of bullies and that it's the ideas of camaraderie and compassion, and I suppose patience in how to address bullies. And that's the way you ask bullies to leave. It's a sad situation in my life that I'm not allowed to do my life's work as much as I can. I hope my issues can be addressed and my bullies in my life can leave. With that said, good luck in the issues of how public transit issues can be addressed with rideshare things and with good union contracts, so there can be bus drivers doing bus routes more frequently. That's the way to create speed and service that is familiar to people and makes it for an easier process. Good luck on those ideas. Thanks.
Our next speaker will be a phone number ending in 731, who will be followed by Dr. Bilash in person here in the room. Thank you. Please go ahead.
It's this truth, and this is my 7th meeting this week. Hello to my friends in the room, Nora, Stephen, Ron. The rest of you I look forward to meeting one day. And then there's Sean. Last SANDAG meeting on March 24th, Nora, you said, quote, "It was so inspiring to see so many young people who are engaged in the civic engagement process and that they believe that government can be better for everyone," end quote. I guess that means you like me, Nora. We get along, right? But you got to have a word with Sean. He spreads a lot of misinformation. On April 11th, Sean tried to suggest that there were anti-trans comments said at the San Diego City Council, when in reality, anyone who tries to find those comments will find them as MIA as his buddy Nathan at the Board of Supervisors or MTS meetings. Something I disagree with you though, Nora, is when you said that all of you there were voted in. That's not true. You were each voted in for your respective public servant positions, such as mayor, supervisor, or city council member. But no one here was voted by the people as a SANDAG member. SANDAG truly represents a living example of taxation without representation, which is called tyranny.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our final speaker is Dr. Tim Bylash. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Dr. Timothy Bylash. I am up in Del Mar, San Diego City. I appreciate the brain power here once again and ask you to please pay some attention. On the screen, I have 3 slides that I might show. I want to thank the Regional Task Force for habitation restoration. I think it was last week, Thursday. I attended that and we had a tour of the restoration project east of the I-5 in that area. And I found it very helpful. This is, I think, from the Rangers pictures. And what I did was add some notations. And what you might see, this is the restoration area, if you can see my pointer. And the right now, the lagoon comes across the I-5 underneath like this and exits into the, oh, I'm almost done. The water is coming from the east, going to the walls of Del Mar in the west and tearing down the cliffs.
Thank you, Dr. Bylash. If you'd like to submit your slides, we can share them with the board members after the meeting.
I did send it to the clerk yesterday.
Thank you. And that concludes the public comments.
Thank you for that. We're going to go ahead and move on to the CEO report. Hassan.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Good morning to all of you. I will be brief today because you have a lot on the agenda to cover. Yesterday, the San Diego region received the administrator for Federal Rail Administration. I want to thank Second Vice Chair Mayor Hiebner for speaking on behalf of SANDAG. Thank Congressman Mike Levin, for bringing the administrator again to highlight the importance of this corridor to the region, to the country, and to the state. Just in the last few months, we have the President of the United States come to town to talk about the second busiest corridor in the country, followed by a visit by the Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg. And yesterday, we have an honor to have the Federal Rail Administration and a train ride. This highlights the importance of this project, not only here locally, but national. We also have last week, we hosted with my partner, Dilarda from Caltrans, the administrator for federal highways. And we visited Otay Mesa too, which was visited by the Secretary of Transportation a couple of months ago. This highlights how top national leaders come to this region to celebrate 2 major infrastructure projects. This highlights that this agency continue to be an example of innovation and delivering multi-billion-dollar project for the region. Again, I want to thank Second Vice Chair Mayor Hiebner, and I'm going to ask her if she wants to add anything on the visit.
Well, I was very impressed. I continue to be impressed with our Congressman Levin constantly bringing attention to the Los Angeles corridor and money along with it, which is really excellent, as well as our state government. I really thought that Federal Rail Administrator Bowes understood the urgency of what he saw. I was only there at the middle part, not to the part further north in San Clemente, but his remarks were, he certainly got it. And I think that we'll be able to realize some good resources from that and save our very important corridor.
Thank you. As I reported to you earlier, we received $300 million from the state budget. We were allocated $152 million for Los Angeles. Yesterday, we interviewed the consultant to select, to perform, and start the work. So the work is starting. In addition, our staff are applying for the national stimulus to get hundreds of millions of dollars. This is serious business. We're serious about moving the track of the bluff. We're serious about the importance of this corridor to the San Diego region, to the state, and to the country. Next week, we'll be traveling with the leadership, Chairwoman Vargas, First Vice Chair Elio Rivera, I believe Mayor Huebner to DC. Will be joined by the Lieutenant Governor. The mission of this trip, this is a chamber trip, but our mission is to make sure Otay Mesa 2 moves forward. We will have meetings with the head of Custom Patrol, General Service Administration, and we'll be going to the White House to make sure that we have what we need from the federal government to start building the facility. As you know, we have the contractors already at work. Last week, we had the Administrator of Federal Highways present to highlight the importance of this. Chairwoman, this concludes my report. Be happy to answer any question.
Thank you, Hassan. Can we go ahead and have public comment at this time?
We have 3 public commenters on this item. Alan C. will be followed by Catherine Rhodes. Alan, please go ahead.
Good morning again, Council. Thank you for the report mentioning about moving the Delmar train tracks. That is very critical. I've seen shovels starting to take action on the border, but I've not seen any shovels starting to move in the Delmar tracks. You're gonna have a train fall into the ravine and then it's too late. I warned you guys back June last year, and because of that, somebody got on the horn, Governor Newsom set aside the 300 million, yes, the entire 300 million to start the push to move the Delmar track, not to redo another bridge, another bike lane. People are gonna die. Move that truck now and forget the tunnel. You wanna save the taxpayers' money and lose maybe a lousy 5 minutes by having the truck adjacent to the freeway. That is the fastest, quickest way you'll get that truck off the bluff. It is too dangerous. Please take action now. And we've been discussing this for years and years. Go back and look at my email. It showed in 1940 when the train fell, when the track fell back then. It's almost 100 years. Please take action now. Thank you. I yield back.
Our next speaker is Catherine Rhodes, who will be followed by Blair Beekman. Catherine, please go ahead.
Hello, this is Catherine Rhodes. And I agree, the relationship Hassan has with federal and state officials actually brings cash into the region. Without him, you will have less money. But in 2019, Hassan and the San Diego County Regional Airport Authority promised us $350 in airport revenue for transit to the airport and the Central Mobility Hub. And it's not included in any program budget. I don't know if it's included in the fiscal year 2024 budget yet. But where is that revenue from the airport? Why don't we have it? And will SANDAG finally confirm or deny our grandfather status and also the status to use the airport revenues? Basically build your whole airport connectivity project with the airport revenues. And then what is needed is approval by the FAA Los Angeles Airport District Officer. Has the San Diego County Airport Authority ever, contacted them for money for this budget? And what I'm thinking that they're doing is they're just kind of playing you guys for fools. And they've been you're never.
Your time has expired. Our final speaker on this item, Blair Beekman, please go ahead.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. I've always been interested in border issues, and in moving down here, I hear nothing but bad news about border issues. And in moving down here, I was just amazed by the Otay Mesa project and what it's capable of doing. And it's just a decent, positive way in how to talk about issues. And it's just so nice and refreshing to hear. And I just thank you. I can never thank you enough for the work you're doing on this issue. Thank you. And with that said, I guess I attended a public seminar meeting yesterday that talked about how the future of public transit can work in local areas. It doesn't at all. Projects don't have to be competitive with each other. And I hope that can be an important reminder how we can work on projects here at SANDAG. Thank you.
And that concludes the public comments.
Thank you. Any member comments? All right. Oh, go ahead, Councilmember.
Delmar Gasterland, Hassan, I want to thank you very much for having the FRA director out and for highlighting the bluffs in Delmar and the need to relocate the railroad tracks.
Any other members? Okay, thank you. With that, we're going to go ahead and move forward to our consent agenda. Are there any public comments on the consent agenda, Tessa?
We have no public comments.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on these items?
I apologize, Chairwoman. We do have one public comment on item. Oh, no, I apologize. It's item 6.
Okay,
Go
we're
ahead.
good. We have a motion and a second. Mayor? Did you want to speak? Oh, okay. Really?
And that motion passes with those members present.
Wonderful. Thank you. As I mentioned before, I'm going to be doing a chair report at our meetings. And so today I just have a couple of updates that I want to share with all of you. I want to first thank our team here at SANDAG for the efforts that has gone into the fiscal year 2024 budget. I think all of you know that the budget was released based on our motion last meeting. It has already been presented to the Social Equity Working Group, and it has been sent to funding agencies. And I also want to encourage all of the board of directors to make sure that if you have questions or that concerns, to make sure that you are reaching out to staff and providing some of those concerns so that we can make sure we get you what you need. The final budget is coming back to us at our next meeting on May 12th. And it is one of the most important tools that we have to approve because we know that the budget is key to getting allocations not only from the state and federal government, but as each of you know, each of the cities get a certain amount as well. So I want to make sure that I think I've asked staff to print out that document. And so it has already been, it's on there. So what I wanted to show to each one of you is how much each of our cities is getting based on this from our budget. And so that you have that tool so that when you're going back to your boards, your councils, and your city managers, you have that opportunity to really connect with them as well. And again, if you have any questions, please make sure you address them with the team as well. Wanted to follow up on the IPA recruitment. At our last meeting, the board approved filling the independent performance auditor position. I asked staff to issue a request for proposals for the executive search services last month so we can get started on filling the independent performance auditor position as quickly as possible. Also, a subcommittee of the audit committee has Mr. Stuart Halpern and Bob Monson. And I also asked our National City Vice Mayor Luz Molina to be included in this process they're reviewing the proposals and conducting interviews with several search firms. And I understand the subcommittee will make its recommendation to the audit committee at a meeting later today. So they've been hard at work and I appreciate that because I know you have a lot of other things that you all are doing. So the board will be asked to approve the contract with the executive search firm at the meeting on April 28th. And we have an opportunity to meet the recruiter and provide input for about the IPA position. So I think this is really, really, really great for all of us. So thank you again to all those that are participating and going through this really thorough recruitment process. And again, Chair Cito is here today. And so I thank you for all the work that you're doing on the audit committee. Then I mentioned this during the executive committee, but I just want to share with everyone the regional planning workshops. I wanted to flag that the first phase of that will be taking place on April 28th during our agenda. It's going to be a two-phase process so that part of what I heard loud and clear during our retreat is that folks want to have an opportunity to have much more discussion and to really think about, being able to have a conversation with our colleagues and so on. And so what we're going to do is the first piece of it is that we're going to be able to have staff really share with us at our meeting on the 28th, what are the items that we have under our sort of circle of control, what are the things that we can have influence over, which ones we don't, and really have an opportunity in a conversation that create a timeline, and all of that discussion will take place where we will actually be able to roll up our sleeves and work together as a group so that we can identify at the May 12th meeting, at the workshop, what it is that we want to make sure is critical in this plan as we're moving forward. And that is what we will be able to come up with our recommendations for the resolution that provides staff the guidance for the framework of the plan. So I want to make sure that everybody's prepared, that you take the time to ask any questions from the team beforehand. April 28th is the first phase. Second one is May 12th. And I think the more we are engaged, the more you have conversations with the team, the better and more efficient our time will be. And then last but not least, I want to share with all of you in one of my roles at CSAC, the California State Association of Counties. I'm the Vice Chair of Housing, Land Use, and Transportation. And as a state, there's a lot of discussion around RENA, which is, there's a lot of work that's taking place. And I heard some of you had, raised really important issues during our board meeting. And so I wanted just to bring this back to all of you and say that there is a survey that I want to make sure that all of you are aware of, that the California Department of Housing and Community Development is actually soliciting ideas and input from the public and local jurisdictions. And they want to really look at ways to improve the 7th cycle of the regional housing needs allocation. So I think this is a really important opportunity for all of you as members, as leaders in your community, to really, as your local jurisdictions, provide additional feedback to the framework. And basically, it's called the California Housing Future 2040, the next RENA initiative. So I want to make sure that everybody participates. The deadline is May 5th. Your city managers, you probably got it, maybe not, I don't know, but I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to provide feedback. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have our SANDAG team send you the link today. And again, the deadline is May 5th, but I think this is a perfect opportunity for some of those concerns that all of you have to put that input in there and begin to move this process forward. So with that, I just want to make sure that I give you an update on some of the key things that I have been working on and some things that I thought are important to all of you as we are trying to move our communities forward in our local jurisdictions. So with that, Tessa, do we have any public comments?
We have 2 public comments on this item. Dr. Bailash, please go ahead.
Good morning, board. My name is Dr. Timothy Bailash. I'm up in Mid-County Coastal Del Mar area. I just want to congratulate the chair. And I was blown away, first of all, by SANDAG. I consider them a rich forest of exotic activity. Nobody knows about you. And so I try to talk about it and the things that are going on. And also there's some negative things over the past year that have discouraged me in terms of wasted time and the climate Jack Hsu has talked to this morning. I just want to congratulate you. I think I've seen your interactions previous to this, even at a lot of the meetings that you've been in different places and talked to you. And you have exceptional skills that I think are perfect for this time period. And I want to commend your efforts to reach out to us. And I think you, with the current CEO, have what this organization needs over the next years to advance the transportation needs of this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Our final speaker on this item is Blair Beekman. Please go ahead.
Hi, Blair Beekman. I wanted to try to quickly offer, as you talked about 2024 budget issues, that I have a lot of hope personally for budget work in local California communities in the year 2024 and 25. I think there's something hopeful and positive about community development. Where all parts of the community can take part in projects that will be developing. So for ourselves, I think it's really important in this next year to really focus on a really positive outlook as how to leave the era of COVID-19 more fully, and to consider, we can leave the concepts of possible upcoming recessions and disaster capitalism, basically, and really focus on a more positive outlook in how to develop the really hopeful years of 2024 and 25. I think we're all, hopeful for and waiting for. Good luck in our positive efforts to get there, and it doesn't have to be negative. Thank you.
And that concludes public comments.
Thank you. Any comments from my colleagues? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to mention when we talk about RENA, it would be very helpful. I think it's pretty obvious since redevelopment was ended in 2012 that there has been a decline in the ability to actually build affordable housing. And in cities like mine, we've done a good job. However, it's ever increasing more difficult because the funding is so tough and the tax credits and all of that. So if there is a time where you could bringing back redevelopment in its original form, I think with the tax increment, I think that would be very helpful for cities like mine. I mean, we had one of the largest redevelopment agencies in the state of California. And, over 7% of our total housing stock is deed restricted affordable. But it's going to get harder to do that. And as things get more expensive, it even is tougher. So anyway, I just was hoping that you would be able to bring that up when you were at those meetings, because I think it's very important. If we're going to talk RENA, we need to talk about how we actually are going to be able to build those houses. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, I really do want to encourage you because I think your voices are extremely important. And as leaders in your local jurisdictions, adding that into this survey is going to make a huge difference. So I appreciate that. Any other member comments? All right, see. Next up is, as I mentioned in our last meeting, I have asked staff to begin to bring to all of you regular updates on the process of improvements that are being implemented at SANDAG. Transparency and accountability are key to one of my priorities as your chair and my colleagues as well. So, I think I want to make sure that all of you know that staff has implemented new policies and procedures, for instance, for the purchase cards, hospitality, and travel. In addition to that, we are well into the implementation of the new enterprise resource system, which is the database, just to make sure people know what that is. And that's going to be replacing our current system and allows for better monitoring, tracking, and reporting. Thereby, I think is going to allow us to solve many of the issues that we know, that have been identified from our auditors, et cetera. So we are also creating training programs for contracts and procurements and providing formal project management trainings and revised inventory procedures and record keeping for IT-related equipment. So I've asked Ray to give us an overview today on everything that is, not everything that's going on, but a synopsis of what's happening. It's very important to me that our board understands what those changes are and how we're moving forward. And then again, encourage the board that if there are specific issues that you have concerns with, just direct them directly to me and the team, and we will make sure that we find out what the status of that is. I think it's really important that as fiduciaries of this agency, we have full knowledge about what those recommendations were, where we're at, and how we're moving forward, because it is our responsibility to make sure that this gets done. So, Ray?
Thank you, Chair. This is really a story about reinventing the agency. This is a story about continuous improvement and transformation. And what I'd like to do is to just take you through a chronological timeline of what we've done over the last couple of years in terms of process improvement so that we can kind of catch up to where we're at. And then as Chair Vargas said, we will be bringing regular updates to you as we do these improvements. But this story is really about taking this agency and aligning the people, the processes, and the technology that we have here to be the most effective, most transparent agency that we can be. When you think about these three areas, when we change something, like we get new people, for instance, well, we need to train them on our technology and our processes. When we find problems with our processes, then we need to retrain the people or change our technology. These are very interrelated with each other. And so this is kind of the foundation upon which we have worked for the last couple of years. The story really starts back in late 2016 when we found the forecast error and that was associated with Measure A. The team took about 6 months going through trying to understand the root causes of those errors and to really figure out how we could come up with a new forecasting methodology, get the agency to be able to reclaim its leadership role in terms of data and data analytics, and to be able to regain trust in the agency. And so the first thing that we did was to develop what was called the 7-point plan. And this is a copy of the 7-point plan. It's several hundred pages long that really talked about what we were doing in order to improve our processes here. The key things that came from this were a peer review process where we look at outside experts. We bring them in to look at our forecast and all of our data analytics and allow them to give us comments, along with developing a QA and control group within the agency. So these were the beginnings of what happened. Later that year, we had the passage of AB 805, which really set us up to bring in the Office of Independent Auditor. And that also helps us improve our processes going forward. So I'm going to show you this timeline as we go through. I'm not going to cover everything in here, but you can see the type of activities that we've been working on over the time. As we move forward to 2018, we implemented something called the Plan of Excellence. So based upon the 7-point plan, the then chair, Terry Sinat, wanted us to continue to work. We were without a CEO at the time and wanted us to continue to work on improving the agency. With that, we developed the Plan of Excellence. The Plan of Excellence has 9 major sections in it, and it has 35 different things that we did to improve processes, procedures, and technology. So we started working on the Plan of Excellence. By the end of 2018, we hired Hassan Akrada as our CEO, and Hassan had a vision for us to update our technology, to modernize the systems that we had over here, to become a model for other MPOs and for us to really think and work differently. What he was able to do was really to unleash the power of this and empower the staff to do big things. And that included with the improvements that we were about to undertake in terms of people, process, and technology. In the next year, the Office of the Independent Auditor was hired early in 2019. And so that input now is also worked into our everyday business operations. A lot of the research that came out from 2017 and 18 in terms of what was wrong really required us to bring in a new system. We had legacy systems here that are as old as 20 years old. None of them talk to each other. Many of those systems were homegrown also. So outputs from finance, for instance, did not talk with outputs from contracts. And so because they're not together, we don't have one version of the truth. An ERP system or an enterprise resource planning tool, I'll talk a little bit more about, is the answer to that. And we started that implementation in 2019. By 2020, we ran into a COVID shutdown. And so this we took advantage of to really move us to the ability to do remote work, for instance. We had to come up with new policies, procedures, technology. We bought laptops for everybody. We didn't have laptops here at SANDAG for most of the staff, and we were able to start to work remotely. That really changed the fabric of how we operated. The first audit that came out from OIPA was the salaries and compensation audit, and based upon this audit, we made significant changes including strengthening our oversight approval. For this particular audit, we ended up having a salary survey that we conducted from an outside firm so that we could have different ways of coming up with equitable merit increases. And we also developed duty statements, which was very important for us to understand really what everyone in the agency was doing and have that documented. Moving forward, we created a strategic framework in 2021. Hassan had us do a retreat, and this is our most recent framework for improving our people, processes, and technology. And you can see there are a lot of different things that we were doing in 21 to do that. We also then did the OIPA vendor audit. OIPA looked at our vendor list, and they gave us some suggestions for improving our processes, including coming up with segregation of duties, for instance, within that group, being able to incorporate more QA into what we were doing, and also some changes that we were going to do in terms of reporting that would come out in the ERP platform later. Moving forward to 2022, we really started doing lots of different types of improvements, as you can see. We did, that was the year that we had the toll operations report come out through OIPA that showed that we had lost revenue. Again, we made significant changes in that particular group. We hired Lucinda Burchard from the Oregon Transportation Department to come and really implement a whole new toll operations system. And so we've made changes over there to make sure that those issues have been taken care of. We also had the P-card audit from OIPA that year. And in this particular audit, we developed a series of new policies, including a travel policy where we tied our travel to GSA standards. We ended up coming up with a business meals policy that limits where employees can host meals, and it defines what a business meal is. And we also looked at the purchase cards themselves. We reduced the number of people who had purchase cards. We increased training for the use of purchase cards in terms of appropriate places to do that, again, to avoid any type of misuse of these assets within the agency. Moving forward, we had the first OIPA contracts audit, and through this audit, we saw additional improvements that we could make, especially in areas like training, and it pointed out system errors that we had or things that were wrong with the way that we kept our files. And so the ERP, again, is one of those things that it helps take care of that. And like I said, I will talk about that in just a second. We are now currently looking at the second phase of the OIPA audit with more suggestions on how to improve our workflows. And one of the exciting things about 2023 is that not only are we looking at implementing new technologies and processes, which I've talked a little bit about, but we also took a look at what each individual person's goals are, what the department goals are, and team's goals are. And so we have a document with everyone's goals in it, and they're all aligned to really start to make the agency much more effective with our ability to work together. Just 1 minute on the ERP system. We talk a lot about this as being the solution. The ERP system is a $16 million effort that we're undertaking to really bring together all sorts of different functions that we have in one unified software platform. And this is going to manage all of the core business operations for the agency. What might have been an 8-step process, for instance, this one shows what it would look like if a vendor was submitting an invoice, and it took 8 steps. All these steps, there's areas where you can lose paperwork. There are areas where you can make mistakes. And once we put this into an ERP system, it will be a 2-step process. Instead of a paper invoice going through a system, we will now have a system where the vendor will come into the ERP system. They will enter the invoice. We'll check to make sure that the goods or services were delivered appropriately to the agency, and then we move it on to payroll. This is a huge effort. There are literally hundreds and hundreds of processes within this agency, and we have documentation here, for instance, of every process, flowcharts of every process in this agency as it currently stands, and then we took a look at what the new process needed to look at. So we have as is, and then we have what it's going to be like, all documented. Huge effort that the entire agency is undertaking, and I'm very proud of all of the people working on that. We've been working on implementing the ERP for the last couple of years, and we are almost at the point where these things are going to be released. In summer of 2023, we'll be releasing the phase 1, and we're in user acceptance testing right now of the financial management modules. So that includes most of the things that we need, for instance, for accounts receivable, accounts payable. The contracts module is in there, so we're replacing all the work, the way that we manage contracts, and all of that is going to be all tied together. The second phase is for the winter of 2023, when we implement all of the HR components, which includes everything from employee records to hiring people to advertising for those jobs, benefits. And again, that will all be tied to the financial systems. And then phase 3, which is the summer of 2024, we will be rolling out some ancillary financial components. Another important thing here, and you see it's Content Manager 1, 2, and 3. We are taking all of our documentations and becoming a paperless agency. We're moving everything up into one unified system so that we can find it when somebody looks for it. And really, this goes very much towards the transparency, because part of our problem is that we create so much product. We have so many things over here. It's very difficult to get people, pointed in the right direction of what they need. And this system is going to help us do that. And so with that, Chair, I'd like to hand it back over to you and see if there are any questions about our procedures and policies that we're working on.
Thank you for that, Ray. Did you have a comment? No, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ray. And just for the board members, and especially the new ones to know, in the last 3 years, we've been trying to upgrade our HR system, our financial systems, which are antiquated, which are actually obsolete. And we have been successful in making these improvements. During the last 3 years, the audit findings, we took those seriously, terms, policies, and controls, and we'll continue to do that. That process actually started before me with Chair Sanat and Vice Chair Vas at the time. I just want to make sure you take this presentation and the material that goes with it, and we'll be sending you more material that, as I said many times before, building a world-class organization is a growing pain, fixing a lot of things. Obviously, the ones you hear is the headline sensational news about the audit findings. But the audit findings are great, fine, make the news. But what should make the news is actually the amazing work that the team here is doing to make sure we build an institution, a world-class institution that survives for many generations to come in terms of accountability. And it's really important. What I know there's a lot in today's report, but if you need additional information about the specifics of what have been done, whether it's the P card audit or the salary audit, the contract audit, and the second part of the contract audit, which you're gonna hear about next month. So please pay attention to the substance, not to the headline news, because the substance is important. The substance encourages the amazing people here to continue to be accountable and do a great work. Thank you, Chairwoman.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and open it for public comment, and then and then member comments, okay?
We have 2 members of the public. The first is Alan C., who will be followed by phone number 731. Alan, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Hassan. Right on point saying don't follow the news. Let's see what the great people here on the SANDAG perform. And when we're talking about transparency, I ask, please, can we make it the norm not to just consent everything away? Every agenda item is so critical, a lot of money doing thousands, possibly sometimes millions. And for transparency, the public should be able to see something before it just gets pittered away, signed off. We don't hear no talk about it. In addition, as well, Chair, please, every speaker should be allowed time to speak. 1 minute is really kind of, this isn't enough time. Transparency, the norm should be the 2 minute. 1 minute if you have a lot of speakers, if you're really strapped on time. But again, thousands of dollars, people need time to speak. My city allows 5 minutes to speak. City of San Diego allows 2 minutes to speak, yet this board is only 1 minute, and we have every rep over here. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker on this item is phone number 731. Please go ahead.
It's truth. This item says that SANDAG regularly undergoes required audits administered by federal and state funding agencies. Yes, because it's all about getting money. As far as SANDAG's process changes, I did like the admission that the COVID-19 shutdown was the excuse to implement, quote, the decade-long planned adoption of fully electronic and automated processes, end quote. As far as SANDAG's DEI Council, affinity groups, and an equity action plan, well, affinity groups encourage cultural segregation like in a prison yard, and all racist equity programs belong in the garbage. But if future micro-transponders in everyone's cars weren't enough, now SANDAG's, quote, install GPS devices in all agency-owned or agency-leased vehicles, end quote. The racist programs and GPS tracking will only bring bad quality assurance, which is really all SANDAG's ever offered, along with data-driven deception.
Thank you. That concludes the public comments.
All right, any member comments? I don't see any, but I'm just, go ahead. Because I don't, sometimes this machine thing doesn't.
I'm not sure if it works because it actually said invalid vote received. So, yeah, yes.
All right, well, I got you.
Anyway.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for the report. I thought it was great and very, very comprehensive. I do have a couple of questions. On page 13 under 2021, I had a question specifically about the tracking log for Transnet funded projects. And that was, it says that it was done in 2021, but we passed Transnet, the second part of it in 2004. So how did we track that previously? And where do we actually find that information? Because I'm not sure if I know where that tracking.
Yes. Andre, is that your?
Andre.
I'm not, sorry, I'm not exactly sure which.
I'm sorry, I'm just reading. It's about halfway down on page 13. Sorry, 13 of the report, but 31 of the total agenda. It says the created tracking log of Transnet funded projects for improved accountability, transparency, and reporting of Transnet activities.
I believe it's the Transnet tracking log. There are triennial audits on the Transnet program, and there is a massive spreadsheet. One was the, FY18, FY21. We keep track of absolutely everything in the audit that the ITALK committee has requested, and we follow up on report back on each of those items. So we would be happy to share that spreadsheet with anyone who is interested.
Oh, okay. I just feel like we should probably have that available on the website for transparency. I think it, just be able to click on it and then it opens up.
If I may,
so-
Sharon, just
Oh,
to
I'm
help
sorry.
respond to you,
Yes.
if that's all right?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, thank you. So what we have actually on the SANDAG website is the Transnet dashboard. And so that's the public facing piece that shows the progress made on all Transnet projects. Then we also have our internal controls in place, and that's what Sharon and all the engineers continue to monitor. We're more than happy to provide links to all that information for you so you can see how that's tracked.
Well, as I was listening to the presentation, I actually pulled it up on my phone to see if there was a dollar association that actually helped track and show where dollars had gone. I didn't see something that had the numbers. It just had the little checklist or check mark next to it, like in process, completed and whatnot, but it doesn't actually have a dollar amount associated
So
with
you're
it.
looking for the budget piece
Yeah,
of that.
yeah,
Okay.
I think so. I think that would just be very helpful. Then you know what you're looking at. And then I did have one question about on page 35. 17 of the report that talks about the process on the P cards coming in summer of 24, I think it is. Anyway, my question is, this is the P cards that are that people are using, and we're down to just a handful now at this point. But what about the reconciliation of when people use their personal credit cards and get reimbursed? Because I feel like that's, even though that wasn't really mentioned in the audit, I feel like that's an important part of it. So how is that tracked, and how do we, what's going on with that part of it?
So thank you, Mary. Maybe I can answer the question a couple ways. So like you mentioned at our April meeting, the end of this month, we're going to be coming back with the reconciliations for the last 3 quarters that are related to the P cards, the hospitality and events, and the business meals expenses. Generally, what you're asking for is ones that are reimbursed on the green sheets, if you will, from personal. They have the same policies and procedures as the credit card holders. So when we trained based on the new policies, all the P card holders are responsible to understand that policy and abide by that policy. The same thing goes for anybody that is getting reimbursement on a personal credit card. So our accountants have been trained to make sure that the same kind of policies apply to both if you have a SANDAG P card versus if you have your own.
Okay, so it's standardized, whether it's a P card or a personal card, it makes no difference.
Correct.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
And before I continue with my colleagues, on that item, I just want to make sure that I think this is what we do, right? There's a process in place so that for travel or anything else that we are able to ensure that that takes place within enough time. Having been a young staff member in many different institutions where they asked me to put my money first and I didn't have that kind of money to put first was always a really big challenge, because I think people always say, oh, people can reimburse, but as somebody who that was really hard for me. I used to do it all the time and it actually created challenges for me. And so I think about especially professional staff that are starting out and stuff, that we have systems in place that we're not putting the burden on them to do the work on behalf of the people, and that we have the clear, processes so that we are able to ensure that whatever it is that they have to spend money on, that it's taken care of. So I just want to make sure that I think for me, that's really important. So.
Yeah, if I can just respond to that. So generally our goal is to reimburse within the month that the invoices come in. So hopefully it's within the cycle of your visa bill, the personal visa bill. But we also have the policy that if somebody needs assistance upfront, that I take a look at that. And if it's appropriate, that we do give them the advance funding too.
I appreciate it. I was a young staffer with no money. So, so it's a big deal. All right, council member.
Yeah, I think this is an appropriate moment to ask my question. We were given the Transnet program budget as a handout. And, it occurs to me, it might be worth asking how the allocations are calculated and what these funds are meant to be used for. And I ask because Del Mar's the lowest. We have about 270,000. I presume these are 3 years in the 3 columns, 270,000 per year. And, we have 3 miles of Highway 101, 5 major bridges. 4 of those major bridges are on Highway 101. And I'm wondering, how does this allocation fit in with Del Mar's obligation to maintain those major state highways and bridges?
So because we are actually, this particular item is really about the process of optimization efforts related to some of the recommendations from our auditor and other systemic changes that are taking place in the organization. I think your point is a great point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the team follow up with you after the meeting, because I think that if you're asking that question, maybe some of my other colleagues may have the same question. So why don't we go ahead and follow up? And they can, if you're okay with that, since it's not the specific.
That's terrific, Chair.
Right.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Vice Mayor?
Thank you very much, Chair Vargas. Thank you, Mr. Ray Major, for this report. I really appreciate how you began your report with a story about reinventing the agency and the very important need to regain trust in the agency. Seeing this report and all of the items on here, it's over 100 items. I feel that it is on the right track for that aim. I did enjoy hearing you say that our current CEO does empower staff to do big things. And given the fact that we went through a pandemic, a global pandemic, and this huge agency was able to pivot during that critical time, does show the investment that was made in the people and in the technology and now in the processes that are necessary for this day and age. I did want to ask about the change for the new ERP system and how that would be accomplished during a remote work arrangement environment. In fact, I should back up. First, I wanted to understand what the remote work environment for staff is and how the ERP system changes will work in that direction. My office at UCSD also transitioned completely to remote work environment, and we continue to be remote indefinitely, it feels like, and it's working fine. And so I'm curious to see what the situation is at SANDAG.
Thank you very much for that question. When we pivoted to in response to COVID, we went from an environment where almost all of our work was done on desktop computers, and we were using technology that pretty much only worked within the walls of SANDAG. We did have Zoom, we did have Teams, those type of tools, but we were not using them for our daily business. When March of 2020 or 2020 came around, when we all went remote, we went remote 5 days a week for almost all the critical staff. And so what we ended up doing was having to go out and purchase laptops for many of the staff, training and implementing Teams and Zoom and other technologies so that we could work remotely. And we did, several months to get up to speed, and we did it pretty quickly. We had everybody up to speed and working on Zoom. We came back to the office, and our current work schedule right now is 3 days in the office, 2 days remote for the most part. And so we support now this hybrid system. Our current systems that we have that we're replacing, all of those are accessible from when we're working remotely, but sometimes they might be in SharePoint, they might be in Excel, they're in these antiquated systems. You have to go through a VPN in some cases to get to them. And so everyone knows how to get to the tools that they need right now. But what the ERP is going to do is replace all of that software with one unified system so that they all talk to each other. So really the importance there is that everything eventually has to be tied to finance. If you think whether we're paying for it or if we have a contract, we need to know that the contracted amount is the same as the finance is looking at. So there's this idea of one version of the truth, of having everything in one place. And that's what the ERP is going to really do for us, is to be able to have all of the information in one place, accessible both internally, and also people will be able to log in and do it externally.
Thank you. Councilmember Burkholder.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Major, thank you so much for this information in the report. I just have two questions and one observation. In 2020, I do see where we transitioned as far as process goes to from paper bound to entirely electronic in-house invoices, right? As we saw in the audit, Ms. Neary, I think, exposed that there were some invoices paid that weren't itemized. And I'm hoping that since this was in 2020, that with the introduction of ERP, it will cure that problem, if you understand what I'm saying?
I think I do. I think, there's a couple things that happened. As the audits point out where we have shortcomings, we address those in our current system. So we come up with a process to make sure that's not going to happen right now, since we're not 100% in the ERP yet. We're starting to roll it out. But every one of the processes that we use internally, whether it's paying a bill or it's cash flow management or whatever it is documented here in flowcharts. So we sat down with consultants and we went through and documented every single process we have internally in the finance department. Now we're working with the HR department. And once we have that, then we figure out, how do we simplify it? How do we make sure that we have the appropriate controls in there, the processes in there to make sure we don't lose anything, that we're not paying things twice. So all of that is taken into account in the ERP implementation.
Thank you for that. And just a couple more quick ones. Sure. I come from a background of cybersecurity, so I'm wondering, with that $16 million price tag, if cybersecurity is included in the ERP system?
We have a separate security. We have a security officer, and we have that as a separate effort within the agency. But let me ask our IT director whether or not.
I see him nodding this way.
Yeah,
so
here.
That's a good indication. That's a clue in the investigative world.
When it gets this technical, I'm going to call in the expert.
Thank you. Thank you, Ray. Bill Paris, Director of IT. As Ray said, we do have a separate security program that works independent of even the implementation of the ERP system. But along with the ERP system, we're bringing on another consultant. So we have two separate entities that are checking doing penetration testing and making sure that our network is secure. And in addition to that, we're now bringing on another security consulting company to make sure that the ERP system is secure. We also opted with the ERP system to have it be a hosted solution. And so there are very stringent controls in terms of accessing the solution from the vendor.
Perfect. Thank you. And with that in mind, the vendors that you mentioned that will be interfacing with ERP, what on their end is required of them to be able to access and interface?
So they don't log into the system directly, right? So they don't have access to our data. Tyler, the company that we are contracting with to implement the ERP system, they manage the internal security of the system itself. These consultants regularly attack our network and try to find vulnerabilities. So in terms of access, they should have no access, right? Successful penetration testing mean they didn't get in.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I appreciate your patience with my questions. Thank you, Chair.
All right,
Thank you, Chair. I just want to start by saying thank you to Melissa, Ray, John, Andre, everyone on SANDAG staff for the work that went into this, and not just this, right? Because this is years in the making. I know that this has been a significant amount of work. I think about, as I've mentioned before, the SANDAG that I used to stand on that side of the dais and talk to and be frustrated with and angry at. And what it looks like now. And there's significant evolution, in my opinion, over that time that I really do appreciate. And so thank you there. And then as always, when it comes to processes and policies, invite the board to make sure that we're owning our responsibility to ensure that the policies match up with the expectations that we have. Ultimately, that is our responsibility as board members to ensure that the policies direct the staff in such a way to ensure that they are doing the work in the way that we want it done. So what I see is, staff doing what they can to comply with the policies that are on the books, the recommendations that have been made with the audit, and look forward to working with the rest of the board to ensure that we own our responsibility to ensure that policies live up to the standards that we have for staff.
yes, go ahead, Sir.
And it's a great comments, and thank you to the board members for asking the right questions. I just want to give you an idea of these systems, whether it's the ERP or the IT in general, and Bill Paris, who's the director of IT, is here to witness this. When COVID hit, we had 5, 6 laptops. And we had almost overnight to buy hundreds of laptops to make sure people are working. Actually, one of the audit's findings, which is the right one, is we had to use a SANDAG credit card. Andre has to authorize increasing the limit of that credit card to pay for those computers. While that's not part of the system, this ERP system will guard against all of these things. But my point to you here is we came a long way to make sure our record keeping is automated, that you or the public or us have access to, and that we're accountable for. And we truly came a long way. And I want to thank Ray and the team and the operation, Andre and the finance team, who done magic with antiquated system, obsolete systems. And I think this agency will be much better for it in the next few years for having a state-of-the-art system that, while the system might change, the softwares continue to update. So you don't have to reinvest in that system. But I really do appreciate your questions.
Thank you. And thank you again to all of our team members for this presentation. And again, encourage board members. If you have any direct questions, feel free to reach out to me, to the team. I think our job is to make sure, as it was stated by the first vice chair as well, is that we need to make sure that we know exactly what's happening so we can share that with the public as we're focused on ensuring transparency and accountability. So with that, the next item is we have Dr. Berkey. Thank you again. Dr. Berkey and Tony are going to give us a quick briefing on our public safety and criminal justice work. And we have our Public Safety Committee Chair Council Member, Jose Rodriguez, here to kick us off. Is he here?
Good morning, Chairman Vargas and board members. I'm pleased to be here today to.
Give me a second. Is he here or not? Of course that happens. So why don't you go ahead and start and then we'll have him join.
Okay, great. Good morning. I'm pleased to be here today to provide the next installment in your 101 topic series on public safety, along with Tony Ray, our new director of the Automated Regional Justice Information System, or ARJIS. I know he's worked closely with many of your jurisdictions. At the end of the overview, we will have an action item for the board regarding the revised ARJIS JPA and fee structure. While many people may not immediately associate public safety with SANDAG, it has been part of the agency almost since it was created. Taking us back to 1977 when Jimmy Carter was sworn in as president, Star Wars and the first Apple II computer were released, and the cost of gas was 65 cents a gallon, the Criminal Justice Research Division was created. A few years later, CNN began broadcasting the U.S. defeated the Soviet Union in hockey, and the cost of a new Pontiac Firebird was under $6,000, and ARJIS was formed. While SANDAG may be the only regional planning agency with dedicated public safety functions, it makes sense when one considers that public safety is a key concern for our residents. Many public safety issues are tied to other regional issues, and what one jurisdiction does in terms of public safety can have effects on other areas, so a regional approach and collaboration is important. Our goal in CJ and ARJIS is to support collaboration, information sharing, and commitment to best practices. One of our 6 policy committees at SANDAG is the Public Safety Committee, which is unique compared to other PACs in that it has 12 voting members, 6 elected officials, as well as 6 local public safety executives. Advisory members also include state and federal public safety. The goal of our Criminal Justice Research Division is to provide accurate and objective information regarding public safety statistics and through rigorous evaluations of what works to keep our community safe in an equitable and just manner. About 20% of the division's work relate to clearinghouse activities, which includes the research team compiling regional justice statistics regarding crime, arrest, victimization, and budgets, as well as drug use. They also work collaboratively with your jurisdictions to serve as a resource on task forces and commissions and present research findings that can inform public policy decisions. Regular, timely publications provided for your jurisdictions in the region, as shown here. Some recent publications have shown disproportionality in victimization rates for individuals of different races and ethnicities, that female homicide victims are more likely to have an assailant who was a family member, and how the use of firearms in crimes has gone up in the past few years, along with the number of ghost guns that have been seized. Ghost guns are firearms which are unserialized and untraceable that can be bought online and assembled at home. Last week, we released our annual public safety budget bulletin that allows jurisdictions to compare how the number of sworn law enforcement officers per 1,000 population varies across your jurisdictions. And another report shows how the percent of individuals booked into jail that test positive for a substance has increased since 2000, with over 4 in every 5 adult males booked into local jails positive for at least one drug in 2021. The other 80% of the division work comes from independent evaluations, similar to those done in academic institutions, to see if programs are making a difference and are they a cost-effective use of public funding. This work is solely supported with grant funds, and for every $1 in clearinghouse funds, we've recently brought another $4 to the region, including pass-throughs to the region. Your jurisdictions. I'm excited to share, we just found out yesterday, Prop 64 legalized marijuana for recreational use, and we successfully competed with this for the city of San Diego, as well as Chula Vista, to bring in another about almost $4 million into the region, which will be going to look at juvenile drug use prevention. So we're very glad to have those partnerships with you. This slide shows some of the CJ evaluations over the years and are meant to highlight how we've worked with many of your cities across the county, from looking at gang reduction activities in North County, to conducting community opinion surveys in the South, to determining how to best prevent auto theft in the East. I did that about 20 years ago with Tony, and the effect of implementing a clean syringe exchange program in the central area. Over the years, we've also evaluated the effect of a regional graffiti tracker program, a specialized housing unit for veterans at the Vista Jail, measured the cost of one meth case to the region, and surveyed our most vulnerable populations about the effect of COVID and what it had on them. The goal with these evaluations is to provide actionable information locally to better understand policy and program decisions and their effect, with results that can be generalized to continue to increase our knowledge of what works. With that, I'll turn it over to Councilmember Rodriguez to introduce Tony and overview of Argus.
Thank you so much, Cindy. Thank you so much, Chair. I just wanted to bring this item up, and as Chair of the Public Safety Committee, I would like to voice my support for this particular item. Mr. Ray and Cindy will be continuing to share the important and essential work that Argus provides to the region, and the Public Safety Committee unanimously recommended the board to approve the revised JPA, including the new fee structure. Argus has not raised a charter member assessment fee since 1998, and the increase proposed here ensures that equity across jurisdictions, as well as Argus, will be able to continue to provide high level of service. We further have discussed ensuring that this fee structure is updated on a more regular basis, so many of your jurisdictions are not caught off guard if the amount changes drastically. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman Vargas and members of the board. I'm going to give you a brief overview of what Argus is, and then share with you many of the services that we provide to our customers, which are generally not known to the general public. But Argus started in 1980 as a joint powers agency, and the purpose of Argus creation was to take all the criminal justice information in the region, take it to one location, put it in a common language so that, can you hear me closer? Put into a common language so that everybody could read that data in the same way for statistical purposes, and begin the information sharing across jurisdictional guidelines. 43 years later, Argus has become the information hub for investigations, analysis, and information sharing in the region. And Argus hosts and we've developed about 19 applications, but we host 39 different applications from our entity and other agencies. And we serve over 5,000 law enforcement customers from 69 different entities that use our services. Oh, that's not it. This one. This one. Let's see, so what is Argus? Argus has a number of enterprise areas that we use. Some examples here would be SURFER. SURFER stands for the State, Regional, Federal Enterprise Retrieval System. It's a mobile device that's used for people when they're out in the field. They can do investigations on their mobile device. They don't have to go back to the office to do research. We have the eQuery. The eQuery is used for analysts and records managers to do research on cases. The BOLs are be on the lookout authorizations or notifications where one individual person is looking to identify somebody or locate somebody. So it comes to Argus, we send it out to everybody. The ONS is the officer notification system. That's where if I was looking for somebody as a peace officer, we could put that out to San Diego region and beyond into California. And if somebody else contacted that person, they would know to contact me and connect the information. And then we have a mapping dashboard. And the mapping dashboard is law enforcement only. It lets agencies map within their jurisdiction and across jurisdictions so they can see what's happening in other areas. Argus Network, the way it works is if you're a dispatcher, if you can look at the slide, or a crime analyst or a mobile user, you have one log on to Argus system. Argus then connects you to different areas. It might be the California Law Enforcement Telecommunications System. It might be the applications created by the sheriff, or it might be Argus's own applications that we have. But the idea is you go to one location, have access to all of this information, then you conduct your investigation or your analysis or your research and work on your stuff. How does data get into Argus? Well, we basically support and validate data from 50 different interfaces, and we have over 156,000 validation fields. And an example would be right there. Coronado may be entering into the system a BLK Cam, which would be a black Camry. El Cajon may enter it as a BK Camry. The district attorney may enter this as a BLAK Camry. All are focused on the same thing. What they're all saying is it's a black Camry. So Argus takes that information, no matter how the entities input it, put it in a common language, then everybody can search off of the same thing. And to do this one report right here, it took 38 validation fields and 1,852 vehicle model validation fields that we had to do that on. Much of that is automated. We don't have one person doing that by hand. I mean, it's an automated system. We use technology in Argus. Right here, how much data is shared? These are not crimes. This is information. So you see in 2022, we shared over 2,695,000 pieces. That would be crime reports, arrest reports, field interviews, traffic. That is not crimes. That's how much information we shared. And you can see in 21 and 22, the numbers went way up because in 21, we started changing the way that we tabulate data. And I'll talk about the NIBRS in just a little bit. The type of data that we share would be traffic accidents, bookings, jails, arrests, detentions, field interviews, officer notifications, citations, crime cases, things of that nature, because different people at different times have different needs. So we want to have that prepared for everybody when they want to look for that. The top most most valuable or favorite applications that we have in the ARGIS are the surfers, the CopLink, the Cognos, and the eQuery. Now, the surfers, you can see in 2022, we had over 400,000 requests, but it returned over 8 million queries or responses in terms of the requests that the people made, because in surfers, we contact 22 different entities in terms of gathering information to get it to the officer's hand when they're out in the field. CopLink is an application where people in San Diego can get information from law enforcement agencies outside of San Diego in the state or across the country. Cognos is a reporting structure that we have where if, for example, the mayor of Del Mar wanted to compare their DUI, the driving under the influence arrests versus the rest of the region, they could have their analyst actually go into Cognos and craft that report and then bring it back. And then eQuery is another research system that we have where someone sitting in their office can do research on crime analysis cases and things of that nature and bring that information to their officers or their investigators. I show you right here, Surfers. It is the #1 most popular application that we have. And you can see from its inception in 2015, 2022, it has become the most popular one that we have. It just grows. And ARGIS has also helped put out 1,100 phones out into the field. So agencies that at the time didn't have that ability could use the system. CopLink to CopLink Inc. So CopLink is the system that gets information from outside of San Diego, but it used to have to be on an application loaded on a specific computer. We migrated to CopLink X, which is created a cloud-based, web-based Google type search. So anybody on the cell phone, wherever they are, or any computer can conduct this research, and it really speeds up time out in the field. We have 2 information portals, ARGIS, one's for the public, one's for law enforcement. The law enforcement portal gives access to the sensitive information that I'm telling you about. The open data portal gives information to the public, things like mapping, Megan's Law, statistics, Crime Stoppers. They're very useful links. You can see that on last year, we had over 2.6 million hits on the law enforcement portal and over 6.4 million hits on the public information page. And then ARGIS sends their data to SANDAG to be used on the open data portal for crime statistics and for monthly mapping. We'll have a slide on that in the end. And here's the law enforcement mapping dashboard. Again, this is only for law enforcement. This is not for the public. And it allows people to map across their region. But right now we have the crimes, the field interviews, the arrests, the citations, and the officer notifications. And this year, 2023, we're going to be adding the traffic accidents, the property probation, and the booking photos. So people can do not only individual investigations, but regional analysis in terms of crime trends or series or things that are happening that way. Where our job is to try to make the investigation simpler or provide tools for the investigators in the field so they can address crime in the region. California NIBRS. In 2021, the FBI or the federal government started changing reporting of crime. Normally, we use the UCR, the Uniform Crime Reporting System, that only categorized 7 crimes. Starting in 2021, they're going to the National Incident-Based Reporting System that categorizes 24 crimes and over 24 crime types and over 54 different crimes. So to be certified to do that, the state required that every agency in California meet certain timeliness standards and accuracy standards. And what happens around the country is an individual agency will send their crime stats to the FBI, or in California to California, and they send it to the FBI. But since everybody regionally shares information with ARGIS, ARGIS and all the local law enforcement agencies together were certified as a region. And so we're able to upload this crime to the state and to the federal government. So in the future, when you see crime stats coming from SANDAG, you're going to be seeing them on the NIBRS, the National Incident-Based Reporting System, and it's going to have a lot more numbers on there. It doesn't mean that crime is going up. What it means is that we're reporting on additional information that wasn't reported before, and we have the ability to continue going apples to apples from the past and also into the future with the UCR and the NIBRS, and ARGIS will be handling that for the region. The BOLOs, again, be on the lookout notifications are probably the second most popular tool that we have. An officer will be looking for a person. They will send it to ARGIS. We will blast it out to all the local regions in San Diego County and to people outside of San Diego County. And when somebody finds that person, they can notify the officer who's looking for that. And it helps spread the word on someone that's being looked at. This is a slide for the open data portal. So the open data portal lets criminal justice information and ARGIS information be accessible to people internally, either here at SANDAG or law enforcement or to the general public. And we have 2 tabs that are highlighted here. One was the ARGIS crime mapping data. This is open to the public. This is more robust than the mapping application that's on the ARGIS site right now. We're migrating towards that. Criminal Justice Research Clearinghouse tab. A lot of the things that you saw Dr. Burke present earlier, that type of information is available on this criminal justice research. different reports, different scales, but it's open to the public so people can see what's actually happening in the region. And with that, that ends our SANDAG 101 part of this presentation, and I think we can answer any questions at this moment. Or I'll go to 8B and then we'll answer questions after that part.
All right, why don't we go ahead and have public comment and then I'll turn it over to member comments.
Thank you. We have 4 public commenters on this item. The first will be phone number 731, who will be followed by Alan C. Please go ahead, 731.
It's truth. Penetration testing. Oh, man. Mayday Ray, the guy who got a county proclamation for only 8 months of work, including watching a woman get beat down by a sheriff's deputy. How could you, Tony, ever promote public safety and justice when you can't even stop excessive use of force? And the special topic analysis of firearms and ghost guns is a complete waste of time when the real stats show that most people commit suicide with guns, not murder. And with all of the gun seizures, it's no wonder people's safety continues to decrease. Even the public safety expenditure chart shows that there aren't enough sworn officers in the different cities compared to the national average. Does anyone here actually care about people's safety? The only thing we, the people, can rely on agencies like Argus to do is to track us with things like stupid smart streetlights and automated license plate reader cameras that will monitor everyone's movement, including associated vehicles, as in everyone we know too. And because that tracking is web-based, that means the data is hackable by anyone, anywhere in the world. What solutions do your charts offer?
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our next speaker will be Alan C., followed by Blair Beekman. Alan, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Clerk. Concerning public safety, Chula Vista has a fantastic program, 911 call. It's actually piped into this responding officer. Dispatcher actually can do that with this responding officer, can listen in on the 911 call. Is this a question, is that countywide? If not, please get with Chief Kennedy down in Chula Vista because it's a fantastic program. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Blair Beekman, who will be followed by the final speaker, Catherine Rhodes. Blair, please go ahead.
All right, Blair Beekman here. 2 items I wanted to mention. One is that with yourselves being have a public safety within as a transit agency, the San Jose Police Association has just been an executive director has just been caught in importing and distributing much fentanyl across the country, possibly in local Bay Area and local cities. You guys should be aware of this, and we should be aware that if we kind of have an open review process of how police are a part of the fentanyl rings in local communities, we can possibly take a bite out of how fentanyl is distributed in local communities. We really need to review this issue. And to also offer, as we talk about technology issues and data collection, we really have to talk about the civil rights and civil protection practices as well. That's the balance of creating our sustainable future ideas. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker is Catherine Rhodes. Catherine, please go ahead.
Hello, Catherine Rhodes. Wonderful presentation. Can Argus start tracking the number of in-custody deaths in San Diego County detention centers controlled by our San Diego County Sheriff Kelly Martinez? How many homeless San Diegans have died because they were too poor to post bail? Can we have a vision 0 for in-custody deaths? Argus in-custody deaths could tell us how many people have died of fentanyl drug overdoses and suicides. Currently, the County Board of Supervisors only has budget authority over the sheriff. However, State Senator President Tony Atkins' bill goes through, it will allow the County Board of Supervisors to get oversight of the Sheriff's Department. And we could start drug testing the sheriffs and screening them so that drugs are not brought into the jail and people are dying of fentanyl overdoses. And there's only one way the drug could get into these detention centers and kill people. And when people get out of the jails, now they're still hooked on drugs. Before, I believe people would go into jail and they would get off drugs. Now they stay on drugs. So something could happen with that. That would be lovely. Thank you so much.
And that concludes the public comments.
All right, we have a couple of members. We have Councilmember.
Thank you very much, Chair. I have a question about slide 11 in your presentation. This is the slide, Public Safety Expenditure Bulletin provides data on spending and staffing. And what we're seeing is that every city from Chula Vista to San Diego has significantly lower staffing per 1,000 residents. And even Coronado, which is higher than everybody else, has lower staffing than the US average. And I see in here the sheriff at 1.12 per 1,000. My question is, Encinitas, Solana Beach, Del Mar, Imperial Beach, Lemon Grove, and so on, all have contracts with the sheriff in various ways for covering our policing needs. Does this sheriff calculation, is the denominator everyone in the entire region, so including people in the city of San Diego, for example, or is it only those that rely exclusively on the sheriff?
For this calculation, it's just those who reside in those contract cities.
Happy to turn it over to you. So Councilmember Fisher?
Sorry, Chair, I hit my button a little too early. I'm gonna hold my comment for the next agenda item.
All right, Councilmember. Who else? Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for that report. I'm curious, as a couple of callers had mentioned, the fentanyl crisis that we're in, and I didn't see in the report where there was a way to track or map those issues relative to fentanyl. So if you could just help me out with that.
I'll share what I know about that issue. We do ask as part of our substance abuse monitoring different questions about fentanyl use, and we have some interesting statistics there. I know the funding through the LECC, the Law Enforcement Coordinating Center, has been looking at mapping of the fentanyl and who's responding to it. And they came and gave a presentation to our Public Safety Committee, trying to get as much data as they can to make that valid. I'm not sure if that's public or private, or if you know more about where that's at, Tony. We can follow up with more information about that, but that is something that is happening regionally.
I'm just a little concerned about it because I know there's legislation in public safety or public health committees in Sacramento that is trying to hold accountable the dealers or the suppliers of the fentanyl when it results in death, but it's not going anywhere. It's not getting out of committee. So I'm feeling like we need, as a region and as individual cities, to protect ourselves as much as we can and our residents, obviously. And so that's kind of the purpose of the question. So more data, more information would be helpful to that end. Thank you.
Definitely. We will. We'll get that back to you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hall, did you have a comment? Yes, go ahead.
Hi, Tony. I see you bringing in auto accidents, and how are those going to be only reported by the authorities, or are those actually going to be brought in with Clue, or are they going to be brought in with insurance company reports?
To start with, they're going to be just by the law enforcement agencies that report the crime.
And so you can't bring a Clue report in to bring.
To be honest, hadn't even thought about going down that way. We probably can.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Chair Vargas. Mr. Ray, thank you for this presentation. I understand 69 agencies use the system, and there is a cost for the access to ARGIS and the aggregated data. Further on in your presentation, you did mention the open data portal. And I just want to emphasize that public members, individuals from the public, there is no cost for them to access this data. Can you please confirm that?
That is absolutely correct.
Thank you. And just for the record, that website is opendata.sandag.org. Thank you.
See no other member comments. I'm going to go ahead and go to item 8B. I need a motion so that we can accept the public safety's recommendation to approve the Board of Directors updated joint power agreement and automated regional justice information system fee structure, and authorize our CEO or his designee to execute the agreement on behalf of SANDAG. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion and a second. So is there any public comment on this item?
I have two public comments on this item, Chairwoman. The first is Alan C., who will be followed by the final speaker, phone number 731. Alan, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Clerk. Yeah, so mention about fentanyl public safety. We know fentanyl is a huge problem. For context, this board, a week after we spoke about the Del Mar track train track, $300 million signed by Governor Newsom. Shows you the power of the board. Fentanyl crisis can be solved. It's actually a prescription drugs in most hospitals. If this board, all the powerful mayors, supervisors here, have a combined strong letter to the governor, we can outlaw fentanyl in the hospitals, outlaw opioids, outlaw antidepressants. 79% of gun shootings is because someone's on mood medicines, be it opioids, antidepressants, or fentanyl. If you want to really solve the fentanyl crisis, please, all the mayors here, supervisors, you can send a strong letter to the state to outlaw it as prescription drugs in the hospitals. It's a tough move, but that will make action. Thank you so much, board.
Thank you. Our final speaker is phone number 731. Please go ahead.
It's truth, and besides deception, SANDAG also offers broken vote machines. In 2004, Argus was consolidated with SANDAG, which means SANDAG took over all the data of every justice agency in 2 counties. Calling yourself charter member agencies changes nothing. Same game, different name. SANDAG's regional plan literally intends to get everyone stacked and packed into smart city mobility hub restricted zones with reduced car travel and reduced water with, quote, fundamental transformations in the economic, social, technological, and political fabric of life in California and beyond, and government and regulating economic activities and personal behaviors, end quote. Then there's no way a totalitarian regional governance group should have any power or any money from taxpayers. This SANDAG Argus is a pay-to-play racket where cities are being charged hundreds of thousands of dollars based on population. The entire SANDAG Argus fee structure should just be demolished because its foundation is full of cracks from the roads they never fix. Boom.
That concludes the public comments.
Thank you. Councilmember Fisher?
Thank you, Chair. You know, I'm okay with the fee structure. I'm glad to hear Chair Rodriguez mention that this will be done on a more annual basis, so that doesn't catch the small cities off guard. You know, I'd like to, you know, I'm okay with accepting this. I think it'd be good to give Mr. Ray and Ms. Burke the direction to work with the member cities on a phased approach over the next 2 years. Just so that, you know, most of our most of our staffs are already working on the budget for the next year, and maybe a phased approach would be a way to lessen the blow of the new fees, and you know, that this could be reflected in the joint power agreement and the fee structure. So that'd be my recommendation.
Thank you. And I won't let anybody know that we worked really closely with Imperial Beach as your county supervisor to reduce those fees, but you know, nobody else heard it here. So I'm really proud of that. And they're still getting all the services that they need. So work closely with your county supervisors to make sure that if sheriffs are in your territory, that you work together to ensure that that's taking place. So I appreciate that. So we have a motion and a second, please vote.
I think you just state that for the record, the city of Oceanside is a yes on this item. And that motion passes unanimously with those members present.
Thank you. All right, with that, we're going to go ahead and move to closed session. Again, thank you to the Public Safety Committee. Thank you to Councilmember Rodriguez for all his work on particular issues. So we're going to move on to closed session for today. Do we have any public comments on item 9 and 10? And for my colleagues, after public comment and before we start closed session, as we're trying to clear the room, we're going to have a 5-minute break so that we can transition. If that's good for everybody? So on item 9 and 10, Tessa?
I have 4 public comments on the closed session items. The first will be Alan C., who will be followed by phone number 731. Alan, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you again, Clerk. Concerning the closed session, just as every other closed session, yes, you have to have privacy as far as public cannot interrupt. I understand, but the public should be observed. So it's wrong to actually hide behind closed doors. Have your closed doors, but have a camera feed in there so the public that children person as well as public at home can actually observe the proceedings. We have to participate in all the process, and no, we cannot interrupt when there's a hearing, but we must participate to observe where our tax money is being spent. Thank you so much, board.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be phone number 731, who will be followed by Catherine Rhodes. Please go ahead.
This is Truth on item 10. Hassan, I got 2 words for the job you've been doing. Ochemplojo. You remind me a lot of narcissist Nathan Fletcher. You refuse to leave, even when everybody in the county hates you, because they know all about your corrupt behavior, and nobody will claim any power to get rid of you. They pretend they can only beg that you'll resign. All fraud, all political theater by the fakes and snakes. It's no wonder you had a charge of over $300 on a dinner with Lorena and Nathan at Donovan's Steakhouse. And I'm sure you all drove there in your SUVs with armed security. More than $580,000 a year of the people's money has been wasted on you, Hassan. Nobody in the county supports your totalitarian regional plan, with or without a road use surcharge. The only one who needs behavior change like you demand of everyone else, Hassan, is you. You can shove your Soviet-derived socialist 2030 control goal. It belongs in the garbage, along with your career at SANDAG. Just like with Nathan Fletcher, resign now. Go ahead. Anytime. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Catherine Rhodes, who will be followed by the final speaker, Blair Beekman. Catherine, go ahead.
Hello, this is Catherine Rhodes. And as I mentioned before, prior to Hassan coming to SANDAG, I actually was kicked out of a few SANDAG meetings in violation of the Brown Act. But when Hassan came, he actually stopped that. He actually invited me into the meetings and invited the rest of the public, which we were shut out before, to be part of the process. Now you have a whole bunch of different things. Now you're actually looking at housing and looking at homelessness. That is huge. And so I very much agree with Vice Chair Shanila Rivera. There has been a significant evolution in SANDAG, and I very much appreciate the audits, and that staff just goes along and says, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Let's do that. So they, the audits are working, and I love all that process improvements that you just mentioned previously. So anyway, I think Hassan will bring money and cash, and I'm actually all about the cash. All I want is more money into San Diego, and he will do that for you. Thank you.
Our final speaker is Blair Beekman. Please go ahead.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. I just wanted to thank yourselves for how you write your closed session agenda items, how you explain. I liked the first public comment person today who wanted a more full process of the closed session process. For myself, I respect that there's a certain degree of privacy that's allowed, but from that to offer the sort of transparency for the public to understand at least the items you'll be talking about, I think San Diego does a great job about, and the city of San Diego, they offer even more detailed description about their closed session meeting agenda items. So thanks a lot for doing that. In the Bay Area, it's close to pulling teeth to get any sort of information on what their closed session items are about. I don't know why they practice in that way. They do the bare minimum, and you guys offer a lot. So thanks for that, and keep up the good work. Thank you.
That concludes the public comments.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and move into closed session. And I'm going to ask everyone who doesn't need to be here to exit the room, and we'll reconvene after to share any reportable actions and take non-agenda member comments. So we'll take a 5-minute break. It is 11:45. We'll come back at 11:50. Yeah. I always forget people. All right. With that, we're back in open session. I'm going to call on John for any reportable action items on item number 9 and Sandy for any reportable actions on number 10.
On item number 9, the board was briefed in closed session on the reference item, but there is no reportable action at this time.
Thank you.
On item 10, there's no reportable action.
All right. So do we have any additional non-agenda member comments?
So
Can you just say that out loud for the record, please?
There are no additional member comments.
Thank you.
was going to make a comment, but I wanted to let you know, I'll just wait until our next meeting because it's so late.
Okay. Well, that's fine. All right. That concludes our meeting. Our next board meeting is on April 28th at 10 a.m. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you to all of the team members and the board members for all of your discussion today.